like that. What's up, everybody? Hey, baby, que paso? It's Slick Diaz, live and in the flesh, here with another episode of MMA Attic, an intro to Degeneracy only special with my man Eddie Pennybets over there. Eddie, how you doing?
Hello. We're doing quite well. I think we got some interesting picks for this weekend. Last weekend it went well. I got 5 out of the 6 main card things right. It's a shame your internet wasn't working, because I would have been able to give people 5 out of 6 on the main card for winners.
I know.
But I always win when I don't record it. Whenever I don't document it or just keep it to myself, I'm unstoppable. And then the minute I tweet about it, the minute I talk about it, anything, it's that true Irish luck. But other than that, we're doing great. I think it's going to be an interesting card. When is this coming out? Because we are recording on Thursday.
Yes, I would like to maybe do some Bellator talk because it's happening tonight.
I've got some Bellator picks for you.
Let me
Lines brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook.
Okay, this is just putting this out there for anybody who's listening to the podcast. Look, your boy Slick Diaz and Eddie Pennybets over here, we work hard to bring you content weekly, but it's a struggle when I don't have the technological tools to make the transferal and the transferring and the actual like generation of this content much easier. I have to do it.
Yeah, we got to get
phone.
you the Creative Cloud.
We got to get me a fucking sponsor. Well, Creative Cloud would be nice, but we need a sponsor for MMA Islands, MMA Attic. I need funds for a camera, a mic. I'm doing this off my phone, y'all. I can't do it anymore. I can't take it. So if you or a loved one love me and have been diagnosed with no, I'm just joking. Yeah, if you know anything of sponsorships or have a product you'd like me to plug, basically give me money and I'll say whatever you want on my podcast. Sound good?
Better get used to using that phone.
I know, dude. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. Let's see. So I'm pulling up the Bellator card right now. I want to hear your main event pick.
K-card. My whole thing is this. Lima, and it's a bit of MMA math, but like Gegard's a middleweight who fucked around at light heavyweight and even so much as heavyweight in some scenarios because he just could. Kind of like what Izzy wants to do.
Yeah, he's got that frame that he can just bounce around up there.
Big dude. And he doesn't look necessarily that much bigger than Limo. I was gonna call him by his fucking brother's name, Diego. It's Douglas, but Douglas is a way better fighter of the two.
Absolutely. No disrespect to Diego Lima. I've had a few interactions with him. He's awesome, but his brother's a superstar. Let's be honest.
And I think that this fight is gonna eerily look similar to how Gegard's fight with Rory went. Because
I haven't seen that fight. I've seen the Lima Rory fights. I haven't seen the Gegard Rory fight.
When Gegard fought Rory, and granted, you got to take into consideration that Rory has just taken in a lot of damage, but when he fought Rory, it looked like you beating up on your little brother when you're in middle school and he's still in elementary school. Like
it was that bad.
It was like a notable size difference, and even though he doesn't look it now, I think he's going to look a lot bigger than Douglas in the cage tonight. And I think that there's going to be kind of that big brothering because Rory's, like, technically speaking, is better than Douglas. And he, couldn't really handle the size difference. So, like, when they were grappling, granted, Rory had already had his nose messed up at that point and was kind of looking all bloodied up. So his ground game wasn't nearly as good as it would, say, be at the beginning of the fight. But he was kind of getting big brothered on the ground as well. Because people forget, Gegard Mousasi is a monster on the ground.
I feel like that's what I know him to be. Why would I forget that?
Because he was known more as a striker in the beginning, at least. If you look at his record, he was a lot more of a striker.
So why in my head?
Kind of like Alistair Overeem, I guess.
So why in my head do I have Gegard grappler?
Well, that's what he's been doing now. I mean, that's how he ended up avenging the loss to Uriah Hall. but he's got strong kickboxing. I might
Did
be
he leave
remember.
the UFC after the Uriah Hall fight?
Let me check. I can get to that quickly through Tapology. We'll fill up a little bit of time here with some noise
smooth
as we're
jazz
looking
styling.
over. Yeah, Gegard. He left after Chris Weidman. He beat the shit out of Chris Weidman, and
then
then
left.
fought
That's
Flamengo.
crazy. Isn't
Yeah,
that funny that him and Machida both did that?
Yeah, but like,
Or not? I don't know who exactly Machida left after, but I know it was after a big win.
yeah, that was the whole conversation about free agency and yada yada yada. But
yeah, it's a cool Bellator card. I mean, so my gut picks are Henry Corrales. I think I know nothing about that Gertz guy. I feel like I should, but I don't. Do you know? What do you know about him?
I know him as a relatively decent fighter, but nothing too crazy. The line makes sense. I have Corrales as well. I'll just give you the two picks that I have. I'm doing a 3-team parlay. I'm taking Jack Hager minus 600, Henry Corrales minus 320, and Gegard Mousasi minus 170. Comes out to a plus 143 parlay. So I'm taking the three of them. I'm putting 2 units on that. And then I had already put a unit and a half on Gegard Mousasi earlier in the week at minus 166.
You don't think Boric is a gimme?
I honestly didn't have a line for that. I think he's fighting on the prelims, correct?
I don't know. I guess, which is kind of crazy because he's one of their. I'd say Boric is one of their biggest stars. Like, not one of the top 3 or anything, but definitely top 10, 15 biggest stars in the promotion.
Yeah, no, I'm missing FanDuel a lot. With this weekend coming up, or not FanDuel, I'm missing Five Dimes a lot with this weekend coming up because Five Dimes always had the international fight lines or the other MMA promotions. So I would have a Boric line on Five Dimes. I don't have it on FanDuel, and I don't even have any Bellator on Barstool Sportsbook.
That's kind of like the way it is with.
I think it's taken a little bit of time to get some of the more in-depth gambling. Although I will say, Barstool Sportsbook has a way better setup for international hockey than, say, FanDuel. Like, FanDuel doesn't even do over-unders. Barstool Sportsbook does over-unders. So that's why, as a gambler, you kind of have to shop multiple books because you can get certain lines in some places than you could in others. Why I loved Five Dimes so much is because you could pretty much get everything there. But it's going to take a while until they come stateside. So I am missing them. But yeah, so.
Speaking of platforms that, before you get into your parlay, or did you already gave us your Bellator parlay, yeah? Is that what you're talking about?
I was just going to sum it up and then
go ahead.
Get into the next topic. But yeah, just the 3-team parlay of Hager. What's his name? Jesus, I lost it.
Corrales
and then Mousasi, and then the straight bet on Mousasi.
Yeah.
And then the straight bet is unit and a half.
Well, thank God you talked about Five Dimes because I almost forgot to give the brought to you buys. Speaking of platforms that make our MMA content creation genius possible, not Five Dimes anymore, but for me personally, platforms like Fight Picks, an app that allows us to make weekly fantasy MMA picks against our friends and custom leagues with custom belts and shit. The cool, like what you were talking about with the specific lines, like you can't get on FanDuel or whatever. That's the way it is with these Fight Picks apps. So with the big ones like Verdict is great, and I'm not dissing on Verdict at all. But for someone like me, who's a pretty obsessive person, I'm a casual in the sense that I don't know as much about the history of the sport as I should, but I'm not a casual in the sense that I'm super into it. So for a guy like me who doesn't casually watch it, I'm not using the term in the meme term. I'm using it in like what casual means. Like not someone who's just like, yeah, I want to make 3 picks on the fight card. Fight Picks allows you to pick every card or every fight on the card completely. And I think it has Bellator too when it comes on. I'll have to check tonight to make sure, but I'm pretty sure it does. So Fight Picks has been a longtime friend of Slick Diaz, and a in spirit sponsorship is always going to be with Fight Picks on the MMA Attic. Also brought to you by MMA Island, the premier platform for MMA memes and media and interviews. We've just kind of rounded out our team with an A+ interviewer and field guy in Donna Corby, straight out of Ireland, with the check mark on Twitter. The guy's the truth. He was virtually at the Tyson Jones Jr. press conference today. He got to ask a question. Ariel Helwani fucking said MMA Island's name on the broadcast. So that was pretty cool for us. So MMA Island is what makes this podcast possible, as well as What the Fuck Network. Those dudes over there kind of give everybody a platform, just as long as it makes you go, what the fuck, in some sort of capacity. What the Fuck Network is a place for all sorts of mad bastards like me and Eddie. What do you think about that? That was a pretty good promo spiel, right? I tried to make it organic and in the vein of it. I kind of cut you off before to do it, but that I got it off my chest. What do you think?
It was good. And What the Fuck Network will have my animations as I make them. I know I keep talking about them and then they don't happen, but they are getting closer and closer, learning more and more in the programs.
You're going to help me make Octagonus, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, it's all an inevitable thing. Content creation is what I want to get into as time goes on. So
we're going to open up
no issues
Compound.
there.
So my gut picks were Jake Hager by submission and Adam Boric. I just looked at the card and those were the first two that I was like, yep. But both of these dudes are 2-0. Brandon Carlton has a bunch of knockouts in his amateur career, and he's got a knockout and a decision, I think, in his pro career. He's going up against Jack Swagger, Jake Hager. It's going to be a weird fight. All Jake Hager MMA fights are pretty weird to me, but I'm excited to see it.
Bellator fights are weird. Big asterisk, by the way, on this whole fight card. It's a Bellator fight card. Understand that up means down, down means up, left means right, right means down. It nothing makes sense. Every sort of fuckery that can happen will happen. So just expect the unexpected with Bellator cards, especially when gambling on them, because they seem to be extra fucked up when you're watching them and then also gambling on them. Like if I don't bet on Bellator and watch it, normal card. Minute I bet on it, all sorts of fuckery afoot, whether it be weird decisions or just these matchups that look strange, And I'm not, accusing Bellator of anything. It's just they have an odd way of going about it at times, especially with their matchups.
Yeah, truthful. That every Bellator card I watch, there's something that makes me go, "What the hell just happened?"
They'd be perfect for the What the Fuck Network.
That's true. Bellator and What the Fuck Network, longtime partners.
Future,
with this Lima Mousasi fight, before we move on, I thought that Mousasi was the middleweight champion. So Douglas Lima is coming up from being the welterweight champion, right?
No, remember Rafael Lovato Jr. beat Mousasi.
Oh, that's right.
And then that brain trauma or whatever, something.
I hope he's doing okay.
I think he's fine. He was running a lot of those jiu-jitsu academies.
That's a very noble part of the sport that I truly do enjoy. When fighters decide it's their time, that they can just move on and help the sport grow in their own way by just embracing it and fully immersing themselves in the growth of the youth. It's really cool. Khabib's planning on coaching, and I'm super excited for it.
It's gonna be nuts when we're in our 40s and 50s and he's got some guy that he's maybe it's his kid and his kid's name's Abdul Manap. I guarantee that's what it's gonna be. I'd put a -1,000 line on that. No way already. He doesn't name his, but I think he's got a daughter.
Oh, okay. I know almost nothing about his personal life.
Nobody does. You hear about it very rarely.
That's why he's so cool. the more time that passes since his retirement, like I spend so much time thinking about Khabib. It's crazy.
I don't.
Well, you're an
I'm
Irishman.
betting on the next line. I got something else I'm interested in.
Bro, that's
I'm
so
trying to figure
awful.
out.
Like, I'm going to draw you back from the dark side of MMA fandom. I'm going to bring you back to the glory of it, the emotional investment, because you've told me of your trajectory and how you used to be this like super emotionally invested, and then you fucked yourself over and you got bitter, and now you just look at it for the numbers. And I'm here to change that, Eddie Pennybets. You're going to be a man of love once again for the sport.
There was a period of time when Brock Lesnar was getting his face mangled by a man named Shane Carwin with hands so big they had to customize gloves for him.
Yeah.
And my neighbors were knocking on the door going, "Is there something wrong?" Because I was yelling at the television that loud and for that long. It was a solid 5 minutes followed by a minute of like running around the house, because I was like 14 at the time or something, maybe 15. I forget what I was. I was in high school. Maybe I was older. Might have been like 16. Who knows? But my neighbors actually knocked on the door because they're like, "What is going on? Like, what are you screaming about?" And it's, well, fucking Brock Lesnar came back and ended up arm triangling Shane Carwin, and Shane Carwin was beating the life out of him. And I've been yelling at the ref for the past 10 minutes trying to figure out why he didn't stop the fight.
That's a good story.
That was back when I cared. Or losing my mind, as John Dotson put TJ Dillashaw on the dance of his life.
Bro, I lost my mind. Wait, didn't he just fuck up Nathaniel Wood a couple fights ago? That fucked me up.
I don't remember exactly. I'm thinking more of like I'm talking about in the prime of when I was emotionally invested. Yeah. Like, I was hammered, all upset, texting one of my cousins about how Anderson Silva's legacy was ruined when his leg snapped fighting Chris Weidman. I was like, this is such bull.
Every time I watch Silva fight, I'm so scared.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's an aesthetic magnet that you can't like take away from watching him fight. Like, since everyone's seen the clip so many times, every time you see him in there, you're like, oh my God, no, what's about to happen?
I hear you on that. But speaking of Anderson Silva, do we want to start from the top down, or do we want to work from the bottom of this UFC card up?
Would you like to do questions before or after the picks?
It depends on. Let's just do them now. They've been brought up. Might as well just do them now.
Okay, that's a good point.
So are they for me or are they for you? Where did these questions come from?
They were for well, both of us. I submitted them and I'm like, hey, I did the hey, I'm Slick Diaz and you're watching Disney Channel thing on my post, and like drop your questions hilarious. For the podcast. And yeah, I tweeted that and put it on Instagram, and then I wrote down a few of them. So these are questions for the pod, so we're both going to answer them.
Yeah.
So from BLM, what's scarier, a heavyweight Piotr Jan or Divas and Figueiredo? What do you think?
I just have that image of Joey B being like strangled to death.
Well,
in my head.
I saw a poll on Twitter the other day that said, who's the most well-rounded champion? I was like, I think I clicked Figueiredo. Like, just maybe it's recency bias just from his destruction of Joey B on both ends of the spectrum in both fights. But like, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely different arguments, and this is tangential and off topic, but there's different arguments for it. But I think Figueiredo is super underrated, even though he's got his horde of like very loyal fans. I think he's so underrated.
I worry about overrating his win against Joseph Benavidez because Benavidez is similar to Uriah Faber, where he was just like an older generation. You're just kind of beating up on an older generation. Yeah. The game has evolved past them.
Bro, like we covered that fight together.
Yeah, that was Yeah, that was part of the Joel Alvarez by submission plus
Yep.
750, Davis and Figueiredo by submission plus 700 parlay,
Yep.
plus
I got that.
6,300 parlay. I will
Yep.
never forget that.
I'm
I
still waiting on
have
my
all the
payout.
numbers. Oh, dude, it's gone.
I know.
It's always gone.
I know. I'm always
Lost
joking
it
too.
on a Russian hockey bet.
Dude, that's tragically awful news. So would you who do you think does better in the heavyweight division? A heavyweight Piotr Jan or a heavyweight Davis and Figueiredo?
Probably Piotr Jan.
See,
More well-rounded game.
I think that
Like, I don't think he's necessarily better than Figgy on the ground per se. I think that he's got a more, like, his overall rating is probably higher.
I could see that. I think that Jan's technical striking is definitely of a higher level, but I just think that jiu-jitsu threats in the heavyweight division are so scary. Like Tom Aspinall, I expect Tom Aspinall to run to the top of the division because and well, just any time there's a heavyweight that has jiu-jitsu, I'm like, ooh, like sign me up. So because it's an underused school of skill in the heavyweight division. I mean, I think it's probably the division where jiu-jitsu is used the least.
Frank Mir, Big Nog.
The keynote jiu-jitsu player.
Yeah, and what's his name that just got called out by McGregor? He choked out Fedor.
Fabricio. Yeah.
There we go. My next thing was going to say choked out.
I just kept saying Vi Carvalho or something in my head, and I was like, what the fuck? What's his name?
What's the next question?
All right. I go Figgy, you go Yan. Those are the answers. How often do you trim? Well, the question was mustache, but I mean facial hair. I mean, I just whenever they said mustache, whenever I shave my beard. But what about you for your facial hair?
I try to shave twice a week because I can't grow facial hair, so I got to shave off the peach fuzz constantly.
Well, I feel like if you don't do that, maybe you could grow facial hair.
No, I've tried.
Oh, okay, all right. I mean, you're a man of many more years than me. I'm not questioning you. Just
no, it's I will forever be babyface. It's becoming more and more of a good thing as I get older.
That's true. I mean, we look like we could be the same age, and you have 3-4 years on me.
Yeah, I get ID'd everywhere I go.
Yeah. So Cameron Smith, I think. I wrote C. Smith super quickly because I was rushing to get in here, so apologize if I didn't get the name right. Is Khabib the GOAT? ? And if not, who is? I think is the full question. I shorthanded all of these, so sorry if the questions aren't exact. I don't think Khabib's the GOAT, but he's definitely the lightweight GOAT, and I think that there's definitely a case for him in the GOAT conversation. It's a long, hard conversation that needs to be had to actually determine shit. Once all-time greats retire, it opens up Pandora's box in terms of these conversations. So I don't know if he's the GOAT, but he's definitely up there. What do you think?
With me, I kind of don't like the conversation of the GOAT because it's so subjective and there's can't bet on it. Like I can't kind of like
I can make a way
for
you to bet on it. You want me to make you custom like things on my Instagram story for you to take odds on?
It's just not the same.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. But when it comes to the whole GOAT thing, the real like summarized question of it is do you take Jon Jones's record? Both guys, you can say, for the most part, like in the thick of their competitive run of when they fought the toughest competition, that it's roughly about at the same level. Like what Shogun was to the light heavyweight division, like you could say, like somebody like a McGregor, or like the level of competition was at the same. Like I could make comparisons of like him and say like Edson.
Yeah.
You know, like so it really comes down to, do you take those 15 UFC title fights, never lost any of them, has only lost his belt for shit out of the cage, which you can't really take into, like, you can't take in how good of a person is into the consideration of, are they the greatest human cockfighter to have ever lived?
But when it comes
that's hilariously
into,
contradicting.
With Jon Jones, people like to
like,
paint him in a bad light and bring up the fact that he has all these issues with drug testing and stuff. So the drug testing kind of turns into, oh, the person, he's shady, he's a cheater. But one, it's just completely, it's tough to really prove for Jon, because he was like, you know what I mean? Like, he definitely,
if we want to go by the book,
guilty, but
he's been, like, made innocent by USADA.
That's what I'm saying.
Their way to. So if we want to go by the book and talk about that, it kind of nullifies it. Granted, the story of him hiding under the cage, which Chael said years ago, and he said he's hiding for pot. Who knows? If you want to try to take that stuff into consideration, then yeah, I would say that probably takes about 5 or 6 fights out of that 15 fight thing. And then, he's still at what, like 7, 8 fights, 9 fights, having title fights. If you're like, I'm trying to find ways to measure it. So it's like, if you're going to take the drug stuff and kind of hinder him for it, even though he's been vindicated for it, just so if, say, you're taking in this consideration of the hiding under the octagon story, if that's going to penalize him, let's penalize him like 5 or 6 fights of that title run, which is really what we're measuring, is the title runs in comparison to each other and who had the best and who was the most dominant of the two. So then you have him at 9 title fights. Khabib is still at 5, so then he's still beating him there. And the level of Khabib doesn't have the same amount of finishes in the UFC that Jon Jones has.
True.
Like, Jones has like that. Okay, like, let's go into highlights per se. Khabib's got the one of like choking out Conor and whatever, and it's more of just the fact that he choked out Conor McGregor, not the viciousness of it. Like, when it comes to vicious highlights, Jones has that one where he's dropping Lyoto Machida.
Oh yeah,
just dead.
Yeah, I mean, well,
and then Khabib has the one where he's bouncing. What's his name? Who's got like similar facial hair to you? That's the only thing I can remember. I know he's like,
I have no
tanner skin, facial hair, short black hair, but he's like bouncing his face off the canvas.
That Khabib fought?
Yeah, that Khabib fought. Yeah. Let's see if I can look this up.
In a championship fight?
No, it's in his title run.
Oh.
And that also hinders the argument if you're going to, put him up against highlights, if you're trying to cover the whole spectrum. The only thing that Khabib has over Jon Jones is that he never made a mistake once. Like, he's a true 29-0, where Jones does have that one loss on his record.
No, and that's a legit argument that you're making.
I think it might be, it's Thiago Tavares, whose head he was bouncing off the canvas. I will never forget that highlight. They also make it a part of his highlight reel every single time. But in comparison, Gaethje, Poirier, McGregor, Iaquinta, Barbosa, those are like
high level.
That's the 5. That's his 5 fights, like, of the highest level. So now let's go to Jon Jones.
Well, Jon Jones is nuts. People often try to make it out like Jon Jones doesn't face high, like. His track record, his list of names is fucking nuts.
Okay, so we'll go from the top down. DC was the last one of like an absolutely legendary run. DC, before that, was Glover Teixeira, whose arms he ripped out of the sockets and just completely decimated. Had the fight of, some say, the decade with Alexander Gustafsson. Chael Sonnen, beat the absolute shit out of him, but also had his toe completely ripped in half, to which he still wears tape on today whenever he fights. Could have lost that fight to technicality. Vitor Belfort, who was TRT Vitor Belfort, who almost ripped Jon Jones's arm off, came back, won that fight.
That might be one of my top 3 Jones fights.
So that right there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Before that, Rashad Evans, when Rashad Evans was Rashad Evans. Lyoto Machida, same thing. Everyone was scared of Lyoto Machida back then. I mean, Shogun was the only person to have beat Machida in the UFC at that point. Rampage had been going on some title runs, but like was around his physical, or at least that he says his physical prime, and then Shogun for the belt, and then before that Ryan Bader, which people used to say that was like, oh, that was just a gimme fight, like that, it didn't mean nothing. I mean, Ryan Bader was the two-time champ,
yeah.
So
well, granted,
that means
Nemkov
something.
beat the
So
shit
that
out
right
of Bader
there
recently, but
that right there is 10 fights. So he has double the run. Did it at a younger age. Did it.
Okay, well, let's try. We should try to equate his. You can't quite do it, but so who would be the ally Akinta of Jon Jones's run?
Probably Glover Teixeira.
Okay. What about the
maybe
Dustin
Daniel
Poirier?
Cormier? That one would probably say is like
Chael, like
Rashad Evans, Vitor Belfort fight.
It's hard. It's because when you move up to the weight class, well, I'm just stuck on the fact that sorry to scatter my thoughts. I'm just stuck on the fact that what you said, like no mistakes, 29-0. Like it's a beautiful thing Khabib's done. He literally just ran through everybody. Like,
and if you're going like that's a pretty strong argument to have.
Yeah, so, I agree. But then you got to talk about redemption goats like GSP, for example. Like GSP came back and got all of the losses he ever lost.
He also the thing about all three of those is that at the time GSP was dominating. GSP. Welterweight was right with it. Like welterweight and light heavyweight kind of were taking turns being the most competitive division within the UFC. And then when Khabib went on his run, lightweight was clearly the most competitive division. But that's also taking into account that Jon Jones had completely steamrolled light heavyweight. GSP had already done what he had done at welterweight, gotten to middleweight. Multiple things had happened. So there were reigning champs in those divisions when GSP went up his division. So there's so many different variables and there's so many different angles that
that's
you could
why
take
it's an endless
that I don't even really care for the conversation in general. Yeah.
We'll
and I tried to give it some pretty.
No, you did. Like I appreciated your thoughts. That was some good chat we had. I, on the other hand, love talking about it, but it's something where you're completely right on the fact that there's too many variables to actually discuss it in something that's not fully devoted to it. We got other questions and we still got to make our picks. So great question, but it's too tough.
There is no answer. That's the answer. It's like the cake. The cake was a lie, if you know that reference.
Oh yeah, it's like always has been, basically.
Sorry, you mind fucking off?
So Tony versus Khabib will never happen. Had 2 questions. He said, "Impressed with the new Rob? What are the shots of him beating Izzy?" I don't know if it's like it's somewhat of a new and improved Rob. Rob's always been really good in my opinion. Like I love me some Bobby Knuckles. I think that his patience and tact has served him in these last 2 fights. But
he's fighting more like what brought him to the show. The one thing about the Izzy fight was that it was so not how he fought. It was like how he fought Derek Brunson. But and kind of how he fought Jacare. But for the most part, it wasn't really how. Like the reason why he was good.
Well, I think he was chasing the finish and got it, but just got finished instead of he chased it and then got it instead of.
Oh yeah, he got what he wanted. It was just not he didn't get it. He got.
Yeah, exactly.
But
ever since the fight happened, I think I posted on my Instagram story that night. The night that Izzy did the do. I was like, Rob's gonna come back and beat him. It's the trilogy of the division. Like it's gonna be glorious. And I still want to believe that, even though it seems like I always pick against Izzy. I like the guy. It's just I have loyalties, dude. I have loyalties, and he's disrespectful to my loyalties. No, I love you, Izzy. I'm just joking, but like to be fair, when he did the machine gun thing while Bobby Knuckles was like laying in the ref's arms with his head on his leg. I was like, fuck me, dude. It upset me in my bones, and I'll never forget it. But I'm a fan of both guys. I'll be rooting for Rob so we can see the trilogy.
Yeah, no, I don't know how that fight goes the second go around. I think if Rob's a lot more patient the second go around, that it really gets interesting. And then
Well,
it
did you
comes
hear what he
down
said
to,
about it?
he said that he isn't necessarily campaigning for it, but he'll take it if he can get
I'm
it.
not looking forward to it, but like,
I mean, I wouldn't. It's a hell of a fucking
yeah, Adesanya,
night of work
bro.
for you. Having a fight Izzy is not exactly an easy thing, but Izzy going to 205 is an interesting storyline.
I
I'm
don't
curious to
buy
see
it.
if that's strictly because he's trying to create a fight with Jones, and Jones at 205 is the only way that fight's going to happen, or I don't know. I don't
Interesting.
know
So
what
Jones
is.
spends all this time bulking, takes it off of Jan Blachowicz, and then challenges Jon at 205 for his own belt, basically.
Yeah, come get your belt, bitch.
But he's like, I can't come back down.
Oh, if he were to go back down, it would forever affect his body in a negative way. Like he wouldn't be the same. Like
Do you
if
think
he's
that's Izzy's
truly
plan?
bulking,
Do you think he's like evilly trying to like
I
ruin
don't know.
Jon
I mean,
Jones?
if I never really wanted to fight Jon Jones, make it seem like I wanted to fight Jon Jones, that's what I would do.
Yeah, if I were Jon and that happened, I'd say, come get me at heavyweight when you're ready. I'll be there.
Yeah, you got to follow me, kid. That's
I
gonna be
love it.
the
I love
biggest
it. You
game
got to
of chicken.
follow me, kid.
Okay, biggest game of chicken. That's a gambler's mentality too. The two of you gambling with each other the entire time. They might just fuck with each other for their entire careers just
They
to
have to fight at
get
the end,
notoriety
though.
off each other. Who knows?
They got to
Who
fight,
knows?
though.
I
Well,
don't know. Who
my
knows?
problem with Izzy going to 205 is he said he wanted to be a long time dominant reigning champion in the division, and
To
he's
be
defended
fair,
it
he murked
twice.
everybody. He's already
He
murked
murked no, he
everybody.
murked half of the top 15. He murked half of them.
Darren Till, I hate to break it to people, right
Shut
now,
up! Shut
not a
up!
legitimate
Shut up!
contender. Jack Hermanson got exposed.
Nah, you're on crack,
Anybody
bro.
who was a
All those dudes are
legitimate title
dangerous to
contender,
him.
everyone who was a legitimate title contender on his rise, he took out.
Okay, tell me why his closest fight was with an old man Silva, though.
Because there was respect. Like there was.
I know, but
Everyone's
like,
talking about. Everyone's giving Khabib a fucking blowjob with a ball cradle because he's. Oh, I didn't want to break his arm because his mother was there, so I put him in a triangle choke. Like no, you
that
did
shit
whatever
is
the
kind of
fuck you had as
savage, though.
available.
If that's real,
You did what was available. Like you did what you
true.
could get. No one's sitting there like planning that shit out. So
Maybe Khabib's that good.
it's this whole like people giving Silva shit because that there wasn't a respect factor or Izzy shit
Oh no,
about
I
that.
loved that fight.
Tell
I
me who the
rewatched
fuck
it the other day. It was great.
other than the leg kick shit, like who's really taken out Anderson Silva? Chris Weidman, and it was because he was fucking around. Like no one's really
Well,
knocked out.
Chael effectively fucked him up, but we're not going to talk about that.
He beat him up, but he lost the fight.
Yeah, but he beat him up. Okay, stop.
Yeah, and how in the fuck does Izzy's fight style and Chael's fight style at all seem? You're putting a circle in a square spot.
Well, that's what I do, baby. This is MMA Addict.
I can't imagine what you were like in preschool.
Oh,
Trying to put a
dude,
triangle in the fucking
nightmare.
circle slot.
Oh,
I won't
no,
fit because it's not the right thing. Well, make it.
yeah, I was like, give me a fucking hammer and a wedge to drive this shape out.
What's the next?
We
next
got a few
question?
more. Also from the same guy. Well, how does Chandler do versus Hooker, Justin, and Tony?
I think he loses all of them.
Really? I think he beats Hooker, and I think he loses to the other two.
I think people are disrespecting Hooker because he's had like very close.
I love
decision
Dan Hooker.
losses.
He's one of the most well-rounded like tacticians in the fucking game who loves to throw down. I love how versatile he is as a fighter, but
His only issue is that he takes a decent amount of damage, and that's what affects his cardio, which ends up causing more damage taken. It's like that vicious cycle. Because he gets hit a lot more than he should.
Chandler just might run a spear through Hooker, dude. Like the way that he's built versus the way Dan Hooker's built.
Who's done it?
Let's look at Dan Hooker's record.
No one has flatlined Dan Hooker.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about literally like tackling him like football.
Well, who even really has done that to him in the sense of taking him down and really holding him down like that?
I just think Mike Chandler is gonna do exactly what he like. If he gets booked with Dan Hooker, he's gonna do exactly what he wants and get shot out of a fucking cannon. Like I
think that Chandler's a good fighter. I think he's a top 10 fighter. But I think that the difference between Bellator and the UFC is about 5 or 6 guys, and you listed 3 of them.
Well, who's the better wrestler, Ali Quinta or Mike Chandler?
I'd probably go with Ali Quinta. Or Quinta.
Well, and Hook, there was moments where Hooker literally toyed with Al on the ground. But I don't think Al's as vicious on the ground as Mike is.
Dude, I think this is similar to like if you took a guy from the South Korean Baseball League, KBO, and you threw him in the majors, and then you have him going up against fucking.
I don't think so.
Chapman,
I think that, bro,
bottom of the 9th, and you're mad. You think he's going to hit a home run? I think he's going to get out.
Benson Henderson is one of the most underrated fighters we've seen. Period in the UFC and otherwise. And he had 2 great fights with him. 2 great fights with him.
Benson Henderson is so over the fucking hill.
Yeah, chill out though. I'm talking about a skill level.
Yeah,
there's a skill level.
Another guy who was ahead of the curve and now is behind the ball. Or behind the curve when it comes to skill levels.
You're making fucking brutal points to me right now.
This is why I lost the whole being emotionally invested into this stuff. Because if you want to gamble on it, you can't be hooked on a fighter because of his storyline. You got to understand that Michael Chandler, I love everything about his personal life. I love that he's for the boys and that it's been on Bussin' on the Boys podcast. And it's like legitimate for the boys.
I haven't even seen. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know Michael Chandler's career like real well. I follow him heavily. I watch all his fucking videos on Instagram. I constantly love the wars that he's posting of him in the gym over in whatever Black Zillions is called this month. I love the guy's career. Like his kid's adorable, but I don't think he's a top 5 UFC guy, and that's not an insult. I'm only saying Michael Chandler, I'm sorry. I think that there's 5 guys on the planet that are going to give you a tough time that you're either going to lose by decision or it's going to be like a controversial TKO. I don't even think he gets flatlined. He might get submitted, but that might be off of like getting his bell rung and then someone quickly snags his neck. It's not that I think that there's like he's going to get outclassed or anything. I just think that he's going to what Dan Hooker did to Paul Felder and what Dustin Poirier did to Dan Hooker when it comes to those decision losses, that's what I think the top 5 does to Michael Chandler. So I think Dan Hooker would do that.
Dan Hooker won against Paul Felder.
That's what I'm saying, but everyone said that Paul Felder should have won that decision. But there was some tactical plays. What I was listing is close split decisions. Like Dustin kind of outclassed.
I think Dustin clearly won that fight, but it was close. It was clear but close.
People were arguing Hooker. I don't know if that was just because, they're fanboys or whatever. But
I love both those dudes. I am a bigger Dustin fan, but to me it was clear. I might want to watch that fight again. That was great.
But moral of the story is I think that's how Michael Chandler loses the fights. I think if he fought Tony, that he might get submitted because I think that his explosive style and how he goes about fighting is the perfect way to lose to Tony Ferguson. I think that you're going to land some shots and he's going to be El Kukui and just absorb them. And with all sorts of damage, you're going to be tired, and then he's going to start dragging on you and just pulling you down to the ground and just putting his
Mike Chandler versus Justin Gaethje is nuts. Like, that's a fucking crazy fight.
Well, that is who what promotion's the number 2, PFL or Bellator? Because PFL was WSOF.
Yeah.
Before it was World Series of Fighting prior, and that's where Justin got his name. He came out of it right when they switched over to PFL, and he jumped into the UFC right at then. Michael Chandler is the face of Bellator for the most part. There's no one else really. Before him, it was Eddie Alvarez.
Well,
and Eddie Alvarez, it's
he had gorgeous fights with him too. Amazing fights.
In the I guess in the battle of which promotion's number 2, Bellator is winning because Eddie's got the win over Gaethje.
I don't think that's how you can. I don't think that's how you can rank them.
So maybe
it could be, but I just think.
Well, you rank it of how their top guys.
I've never watched one PFL event. Have you?
Oh, I've watched all of them, dude.
I've never I've seen in them afterwards, but
Thursday night fights, gambling, Tuesday night gambling, that shit was phenomenal.
All right, let's get to the next question. We've got 2 more. Should kneeing a downed opponent be allowed? What about a 12-6 elbow from Joris MMA?
I think we got to live in a crazier country to let that shit slide.
Yeah, I kind of
You got to be like Brazil or Japan. You got to be somewhere where there's not really as much regulation as there is right now. Too many doctors are involved. There's no way you're getting that shit legalized.
I agree, but I think there's some rules that should be allowed. I think fence grabbing. I think people should be able to fence grab. I get that it limits action a little bit, but if you're in a cage fight and one guy's objective is to put the other guy against the cage in the fight, why can't the other guy use the cage in the fight to get back in the fight? It's fucking mind-boggling to me that one guy can press a guy up against this thing that they're supposed to act like isn't there. I don't understand. I get not climbing on top of it and shit, but if you want to pull the cage to get out of a position or something, I don't see the fuck with that at all.
It's kind of adding in, not like a weapon, but it's adding in a tool into the fight, and you're trying to figure out who's the best fighter. You're not trying to figure out.
But that's what the offensive person is doing too, by putting them up against it. That's a tool. Using a wall, that's a tool.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's
the same thing.
It is, but it's more of a boundary.
It's more of, you're up against it, so you can't use it. What the fuck is that?
No, it's more of a boundary because the guy on offense can't grab it either.
Yeah, but he can definitely use it, and I just think in an opportunistic if I was a fucking cage fighter, I'd be trying to find, not that I'm a cheater, but I'd be trying to find all sorts of ways to win.
But in hockey, you can pin somebody up against the board, but you can't hold on to the glass and try to manipulate your. You can't it's almost like a roller coaster. You got to keep your arms inside the vehicle. You can't start using the board to pull you out of it and shit. I don't know. I think that's just because it's a sport. They're gonna have these weird rules because it's a sport. That they're trying to make it all regulated and trying to make it as even as possible. I get it. It's just against around even.
I would just wish the refs would get on the same page, because some refs don't even mind it, and they'll if it's really bad they'll tell him something, but sometimes a guy will not even be grabbing it. He'll just be pressed up against it, and you'll be hey, no, slapping his hand, and I'm bro, chill out. He's in a fight. He's not doing anything except trying to gain his bearings.
I think the people also forget that when they're watching from their couch that they have 8 different cameras that are picking the best angle to get a full perspective of it, where the ref is just sitting in there. Those old Pride fights had the ref camera, and it gave a good angle in the sense that you would see things up close and you'd be able you'd be right there, almost so close that you miss some of those small details. So you miss seeing maybe someone pulling on a rope or something like that. based on where you're standing, because you're trying to look to make sure you can see the guy's free hand, because say there's a submission go. Like, there's so many different factors into it. I think the judging's the biggest factor that needs to be addressed. If anything needs to be fixed, it needs to be the scorekeeping of how they keep score of a fight. The 10 must system's terrible. But what's the next question? Because we're already starting to hit an hour and we haven't even done the picks yet.
We got one more question. Bruce Lee, facts. What fighter stands a chance against Bruce Lee, if any?
At this point in time, all of
them. None of them is my answer, and that'll be it. That'll be it. Like that, we'll just keep it short and sweet.
He's an actor.
Yeah.
He's an icon, but he's an actor.
That's true.
These guys are trained fighters. This is like, would Michael Jordan absolutely destroy what's his name?
Jake Paul.
No. What's his name? He's in the Crown Royale commercials, the basketball player. He's got a shit ton of rings. Dr. J.
Oh.
Would Jordan beat Dr. J in a one-on-one, both of them in their primes? Yes, because without Dr. J, there is no Michael Jordan. That's the whole thing of evolution. So even if you take somebody from the past and bring an actor like Bruce Lee into a fight with fucking Dan Hooker's going to butcher the shit out of him.
Yeah. Let's make quick
evolution.
Picks.
I'm fine with quick picks. The questions were fucking
we went like an hour on what felt like
it was a solid half hour picks.
What was I saying?
Or
what
solid half hour questions. But no, they were
the
questions.
Which one kept us so long? The shot of him the Chandler. Well,
the goat.
Chandler?
Oh, it was the goat, because we were talking about if you were going to try to give some sort of grading system, what would you grade? And then going into it.
All right. Yo, what's up, Mom? Hello? What's going on here? Anyway. All right. Sorry, everybody. I was distracted by my surroundings. So we got UFC fights, and let's go to the prelims. Let's do bottom to top.
I got my picks on Action Network. I can go through those if you want.
Oh yeah. Give the bets real quick.
Hold on, let me pull them up. Okay. So to start it off, I've got a two-way parlay of Alexander Hernandez minus 400 and Bobby Green minus 315. Barstool Sports doesn't give by decision props or anything like that for the fights. So because of that, I've only taken money line on some of these. And then after that, so I got 2 units on that. And then I got half a unit on Maurice Green. I got a unit and a half on Andre Feely. But at this point, I have a strong feeling that Bryce Mitchell is going to win. So if you wanted a pick from me, I would tell you to take Bryce Mitchell. But if you ask me what I bet a unit and a half on Andre Feely.
It's such a tricky fight. I love both of these guys. They're both dogs, and I'm really upset that this fight is booked. And then
to finish it out, I got a half a unit on Anderson Silva because I feel like fuckery's afoot. But if you want to dive into the reasonings behind like these picks, or what are yours?
I got. I'm just not going to make a few at the bottom yet. Well, I got to take Yanez here. I got to take my boy Yanez. Maybe Marshman as well.
Marshman's a big underdog.
Yeah,
but I got minus 320 favorite.
Yeah, but I got to take him. I always got to take Marshman.
I was thinking about it myself, but I was like, I was thinking
he was one of my first fighter followers ever.
Been killing it. I think the fight that's going to be the most interesting is Maurice Green versus Greg Hardy, because this is just yet another step up the ladder in Greg Hardy's career. This is the new most competitive dude that he's fought so far.
Interesting.
So it's really, I cannot wait to see him lose. He's somebody that I want to see. Oh shit, I forgot he's
already
lost. My fucking. 2020 has been such a long year that to go back into November of 2019 and try to remember something is difficult. Even trying to like bring yourself back to like, remember when Kobe died in like February?
Crazy.
That feels about a year and a half ago. So
yeah.
That fight will be interesting to see. Yeah, if he gets back on his feet.
Yeah,
But I like Maurice Green on it. I think he's just big enough and athletic enough. But it's a half a unit bet. It's not anything serious.
Yeah, I got Hardy in that easily. I think Hardy does work, honestly.
Yeah, even all the time that I've talked about with not betting emotionally, Greg Hardy is one of the few people that I just can't get myself to bet on.
Well,
Another one
that's my problem with him. I kept picking against him, and then I saw him lose, and I know how good he is and how good he can be. I know what kind of athlete he is. And I think Maurice Green, as big as he is, I don't think he's half of the athlete that Greg Hardy is.
No, he's crazy, guys. That fucking one eye is just, it's always off somewhere else. But
I got Hernandez. I got to take the hometown kid.
Bobby Green as well.
But the Bobby Green Moises fight is crazy.
One thing about Bobby Green right now is he's got a lot of momentum behind him, and he's winning decisions handedly, while them also being 29-28s. I'm confident on him. I was looking through Moises' record earlier. There was nothing in his record that showed me he's beaten somebody at the caliber of Bobby Green. He usually loses to people at that level. Like his loss to Beneil Dariush, that kind of tells me that he could be more on the losing end. I mean, he also lost to Jason Knight. Granted, that was in 2015, but I had seen that. I don't know why that bothered me. And then his win over Michael Johnson, I don't give it as much credit because Michael Johnson's one of those dudes that either shows up and he's one of the best fucking fighters on the planet, or he shows up and he's just a shell of himself. And I think that night he was a shell of himself. So I'm not really sold on Moises yet. If he does win, that would be impressive. I'll be sold afterwards. But for the time being, I am going to have to throw Mr. Bobby Green and Hernandez in a parlay together. And it's nice because the fights are back-to-back, too. So it's not like you win one part of the leg and then you're waiting for 3 fights and then you end up losing the second part of the parlay and you're even more pissed because you've just been sitting there optimistic for 3 fights.
Yeah. Wait, so is Kevin Holland not booked on the fight anymore?
I did not see a line on him, but he is at least on Tapology going against a Charlie Ontiveros, who, no offense, I have not heard of this Texas man.
Ooh, don't tell me that. I got Kevin Holland if he's fighting.
Yeah. The Bryce Mitchell fight to me is interesting too. Gambling wise, I feel like if there's 2 fights on this card that I feel like are a trap, I feel like it's Bryce Mitchell versus Andre Fili, and then I feel like it's Courtney Casey versus Priscilla Cachoeira.
Without a doubt, those are 2 tricky fights. And with the Bryce Mitchell Andre Fili fight, I think that it's kind of an expectation that Fili's going to look better than him on the feet, but Bryce is always somewhat surprising on his feet as well. He's always daring, and he's always looking better and better on his feet, and until he gets into the ground where he's a savage. Andre Fili is one of the most exciting fighters in the division, and so is Bryce. So I know this is going to be a really cool fight. But as far as predicting it, I think that if it stays on the feet, I lean Fili like a little bit, but I think Bryce is just, I don't know. I rewatched a few of his early fights, and I've been a Bryce Mitchell fan longer than I've been a Fili fan, I think. I was with Bryce like early. So I'm just always excited to see him fight. And it's hard for me to ever pick against Fili as well, though. So this is one of those fights where I almost had a clause in my podcast where I would just not pick a fight because I'm too I can't decide, and I love these 2 guys. So that would be one that was up for consideration on that. But I guess I'll take Bryce Mitchell, which feels like I've been leaning Fili, but I can't not take my boy Bryce. I think he's gonna get it on. I think if it goes to the floor, he gets it done. Let me put it like that.
It's interesting because I think Feely is hands down the highest level of competition that Bryce Mitchell has faced.
Yeah.
And his only loss is that exhibition bout to Brad Katana. He's technically 13-0, like in sanctioned fights. If I remember the Katana fight correctly, mostly was on its feet. If that ends up being the same case for this Feely fight, I don't know. When you have the veteran that's the underdog, and this is kind of going more into playing
a young veteran at that.
Yeah, it's kind of fitting more into like playing a system. This is more analytically speaking on the gambling side of it and less on the matchup or even putting faces to names. This is kind of, I'm just looking at the fighter and the situation for what it is. We have the veteran who's the underdog and is also the highest level of competition that the up-and-coming favorite has fought. When those scenarios occur, that's usually when somebody loses. A prime example of that person is Roxanne Modafferi. Look at her record. She's a prime example of that veteran that just puts out these fires that we call hot prospects.
Would you say Bryce is like a Macy Barber?
Not necessarily. I think his game's... I think if we had to say that Andre Feely is Roxanne Modafferi, then sure. But Bryce is a very strong ground game, and if you stop the ground game, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Feely is the guy that I think is capable of doing that, so we'll see what happens. With the Courtney Casey fight, the reason why I say that is a trap is Courtney Casey has less than stellar takedown defense and is very okay with fighting off of her back and trying to go for a submission and lets somebody get the takedown against her. Priscilla, the performance that she put up against Valentina, it did not show at all. And then she lost to Molly McCann, which, to be honest, I think she just lost so badly to Valentina that, like, the next fight she was still kind of dealing with it. But at this point, I can see that. I mean, Courtney Casey's talented. That's the frustrating part about her, is that she's talented. She just lets people take her down and lay on top of her. And so with that, you can never take her, especially when she's like a minus 320 favorite or whatever the hell it is right now. She's a very heavy favorite. And considering she's just a fight above 500, that's got a trap written all over it. And then a lot of people are all over this Natividad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Everyone's saying that that's like the big underdog that's going to win.
Where do I know him from? Like the problem with these early parts of the cards is that like there's so many names that I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like I remember that guy. Or maybe I've seen a clip or something. Or like, but I need to do better homework.
It's his UFC debut.
Yeah.
And
where did he fight before that?
He's fighting Contender Miles Series? Johns, who I know has fought. I would take Miles Johns in that fight. He hasn't even fought Natividad. If Tapology has given me all the correct information, his last fight was on an LFA card.
Yeah, so versus Strada.
A lot of these guys that come into the UFC, their first fight, UFC jitters is a legitimate thing. Fans are not. Guys don't really win a lot coming off of their first fight. I believe it's like an 80% losing percentage, or at least that's what it was on betmma.tips the last time I checked.
Well, coming from other promotions?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That a fighter coming into the UFC and having their first fight, for the most part, loses.
Interesting.
Let's see if I can pull it up. Octagon Jitters in progress. Yeah, so... to talk about the win percentage, it is 6% for heavyweights, 8% for light heavyweights, 8% for middleweight, 17% for welterweight, 13% for lightweight, 13% for featherweight. Yeah, just keeps going on. So it's not high. Yeah. But other than that, I don't really have any other fight that I'm interested in. I'm going to be flipping back and forth from college football as I'm watching this.
Are you going to watch Silva Hall?
I will watch the main card for the most part. I'll probably watch the entire main card. I will probably tap in for the Hernandez fight.
Oh, that's a fun
which
fight.
Is the prelim headliner, and then jump right into the main card. And then I'll probably get the second television going and throw in some football or something, because the kids always got to be peppering the board regardless of how many sports are on or not on. And if you want to follow those picks, Action Network is where to find me. Download the app, look up Eddie Pennybets. I'm the only animated character on there. Shouldn't be hard to find.
I gotta leave them with my pick for Hall Silva. I've been leaning Hall ever since the fight was booked, but I'm penciling it in. Anderson Silva with a beautiful triumphant victory.
I think Silva is a lot more of a wily vet on the feet than people give him credit for. And yeah, the leg kick is a blatant, that's just going to be an issue that he's always going to have since breaking it. But he has this tremendous ability to just completely nullify people's game plans. Weidman was like the only guy who really had a game plan that he actually executed on the dude. And like Bisping was another one who like got it off, but again, took a lot of damage in the process. So people give Anderson Silva a lot of shit and, really discredit him because of his losses recently. But do you think that Uriah Hall is at the level of Jared Cannonier, Israel Adesanya, Daniel Cormier, Michael Bisping, Chris Weidman?
Well,
because other than that, we got to go all the way back to when he fought in Pride to find a loss. So, he really hasn't even lost all that much.
Yeah, I know. It's just, Uriah Hall's 36 too. Or not that Anderson Silva's 36, but I thought Uriah Hall was younger.
Yeah. Wow. Uriah Hall's also had seizures trying to get to middleweight. There's a lot of question marks around the once anticipated to be the next Anderson Silva. So if this fight's about 10 years too late, that's a big thing in fighting. It's rare that fights happen when they should. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see. I think that,
I think when the fight got announced, I tweeted that Uriah Hall's going to fucking starch Anderson Silva. So we'll see what happens, but I'm officially taking Silva.
He could. If there was ever a guy to absolutely put Anderson's lights out in a historic fashion, it's Uriah Hall.
That's what I'm saying. And that was my gut instinct about the fight. But
does Uriah Hall show up in the big moments? I love the guy. I think he's a tremendous fighter. But he hasn't been known for showing up in big moments. God, I need to see
Anderson Silva putting Uriah Hall out, though?
No. Maybe a TKO from like a body shot of a knee or something. Like I could see Silva coming in with like a flying knee to the body of sorts, kind of putting him out. Maybe that sense, but it'll probably be a decision.
Yeah. So a safe bet for this fight might be that it goes the distance, huh?
You might get dog odds on that, which would be nice. Let me actually pull up FanDuel real quick and see if I can lock that in as a prop bet. If I can lock that in as a prop bet, then I will give that out officially, and that will be our last pick. We could call it a day from there. Sound good?
That sounds good to me.
So, we're doing the Face ID, because I don't have the thumb thing anymore. Minus 225 for Uriah Hall. I got Anderson at plus 185. It's now at plus 180. So it is starting to go down. You could get Anderson by the points at plus 460. Uriah Hall by the points at plus 195. How the fight will end. On the points is an even odds. So if you bet
parallel, go ahead.
If you bet on the points for the fight to go the distance, you'll get $1. Although if you bet, this is what's always so funny about sports books. So FanDuel has it set up. It has one tab that goes, how will the fight end? KO TKO minus 110, which is essentially a pick'em. By submission plus 1,000, and then by the points, even money at plus 100. Then under it, it has, will the fight go the distance? If you say yes, which is the same thing as betting on the points, you get plus 106 as your odds. So you get the extra 6 points. So if you put down $100, you get $106 back instead of just 100. It's a small difference, but I never understood that with sports books. They'll ask you the same bet in different wording, and they'll give different odds for it.
Yeah, that is weird. I noticed that when I was doing my little bets with you. I was like, this basically looks kind of like the same shit. Like, what's going on here? But one thing that I haven't heard much talk about for this fight is how much it like might on the surface look like a different version of Stylebender Silva. I just think that he's not going to have the same reverence for Silva as Izzy had in there. I think that Izzy went in there to like put on a show and have a show of respect and like a cool fight, whereas I think Uriah Hall might seriously be going in there to fucking end Anderson Silva. So that's what scares me, even though on the surface it could look just like another fun strikers bout like we saw with Silva Adesanya.
I don't know. I think that might be overanalyzing it too much. He has an issue of performing. Uriah Hall.
Well,
he's never been good at it.
I'm talking more about the fact that Adesanya, that was an out-of-character fight for Adesanya.
It was, but it wasn't. Like, he didn't fight. Like, people give that fight so much shit. Like, the two of them were just two fucking ninjas going at each other.
Oh, no, it was an awesome fight. I love the fight, and I thought it was close competitively. I don't think Izzy was taking it super easy on him or anything, but I think that it's not going to be the same kind of thing. I think that Adesanya had this, like, kid going up against Silva, like, vibe where he was like, oh, my God, this is so crazy, but I think Uriah Hall's going to forego all of that, and I think he's just going to have a focus in there that's terrifying. But I'm picking Silva, so we'll leave it at that. This has been MMA Addict on MMA Island. I'm your boy, Slick Diaz. This is Eddie Pennybets. Anything you want to sign off with?
We took him on the scenic route today.
Yeah, man, we always do. Well, it's a nicer drive.
It can be. Can be.
Yeah. All right.
So until next time, you fucks.
Yep. Catch y'all on the flip side. Thank you for listening. Make sure to do all the stuff you're supposed to do with videos and podcasts.
Subscribe again.
Yeah,
Tell
all that.
Tell a friend.
Yeah.
Post on Facebook, whatever it is that you do to talk to people.
Yeah, we need word on the street is what we really need. So thank you.
Yeah, like write it on the street with chalk.
No, we'll pay the city to put it in the like crosswalk design.
No, just tell a 5-year-old to draw it on their driveway.
I'd like the artistic principles of that better. All right, catch you later.